What if I told you your next career move could literally depend on your zip code? It sounds kind of crazy, right? But a huge new law in Washington state is making that a reality. We're talking about non-compete agreements, and believe me, the fight over them could change the American workforce as we know it.
And look, this isn't just some abstract legal debate. We're asking this question because for millions of people, a new law could totally change the game for how you switch jobs. So let's dive in and unpack what's going on, and more importantly, why this really matters to you.
All right, let's get right to the heart of it. Washington's massive new ban on non-competes. And when I say massive, I really mean it. This isn't just some small adjustment to the rules. No, this is a major, major shift in employment law for the state.
So here's the headline you need to know. Washington just pretty much banned non-compete agreements. That's it. Governor Bob Ferguson signed the bill, and just like that, it's a huge win for worker mobility. And honestly, this could set a major precedent for the rest of the country.
Okay, so what in the world is a non-compete agreement anyway? Well, it's that little clause you might have seen in an employment contract. You know, the one that says you can't go work for a competitor or even start your own competing business for a certain amount of time after you leave. Just think about that. And these things are everywhere, especially in big industries like tech, healthcare, sales, and finance.
All right, so we know what a non-compete is. Now, let's get into the good stuff. How exactly is this new law in Washington taking them apart? What does this ban actually do? Let's break down the details.
This whole thing basically rolls out in 3 big steps. First up, by June 30th, 2027, any existing non-compete is pretty much useless. It's unenforceable. Step 2, employers have to actually tell their current and even former employees that those old agreements are now void. And finally, Step 3, they're completely barred from creating any new non-compete agreements. So yeah, this is a full-on hard stop for the practice in Washington. But, and this is a big but, the ban doesn't cover everything. There's a really important difference to understand here. While non-competes are out, something called non-solicitation agreements are still allowed. So your old boss can still stop you from, say, trying to poach their clients or hire away their best employees. But here's the kicker. The new law says these non-solicitation agreements have to be narrowly construed. What does that mean? It means their power is way more limited than it used to be.
Okay, so you can imagine a legal change this big is going to cause some waves in the economy, right? So what are the potential impacts? Let's take a look at how this could reshape the market, not just for employees, but for businesses too.
You've got experts like Meredith Miller, who's a law professor at Albany Law School, calling this a potential game changer. And her argument is pretty straightforward. When you're free to move to whatever job values your skills the most, it just naturally forces companies to pay more to keep you. It drives up wages. But it doesn't stop there. This new freedom could also light a fire under innovation, as talented people move to companies with the best new ideas.
But it might be a bit of a double-edged sword. There's a potential trade-off. While things like worker mobility and wages are likely to go up, which is great for employees, businesses might have to pass on those higher costs. To who? Well, to consumers. Professor Miller points out that this could mean things like the cost of borrowing money goes up. It's that classic economic puzzle. What's good for one group might come at a cost for another.
And this really brings us to the bigger picture here. Washington's decision isn't happening in a vacuum. It's part of this huge, really contentious debate that's playing out all across the U.S. And when it comes to non-competes, America is, well, it's a pretty divided nation.
I mean, just look at the split. On one side, you've got Washington joining this pretty exclusive club of states that have full bans. Think California, North Dakota, Minnesota, and Oklahoma. But then on the complete opposite side, you have states like Florida that are actually going the other way. They're passing laws that make it easier for employers to enforce these things. It's a really stark contrast.
So, where does that leave us? Well, experts are calling it a rapidly shifting landscape. It's really hard to predict who's going to be next. Right now, all eyes are on states like New York, where a similar bill is in the works. If that passes, it could be another huge domino to fall. But in a climate this divided, honestly, anything could happen.
All right, so for our last section, let's tackle the question you're probably asking. Why is this a messy state-by-state fight in the first place? Why isn't there just one simple federal rule for everyone? Well, the answer comes down to a really dramatic flip-flop that happened at the federal level.
This timeline really tells the whole story. Believe it or not, back in 2024, the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, actually approved a nationwide ban on non-competes. A done deal, right? Well, not so fast. After a ton of legal challenges from business groups, the agency basically hit the brakes. They started asking for more public info, and by early 2026, the nationwide ban was officially scrapped. Just like that, the whole issue was kicked back to the individual states to figure out.
And that brings us right back to where we started. We're left with this really critical question. With the federal government stepping back and all the states drawing their own battle lines, will your ability to switch jobs, to grow your career, will it all soon depend on your zip code? It's a powerful thought to end on, and you can bet millions of Americans are going to be watching this very, very closely. Thanks for tuning in.